hot nights coming. Keep the car running. And the fingers swallow my pollen. Gold, I swam into your spell. On the ride of God we fell. You were plush and dolly bed. You had me howling cold. I fell into your skin. On the night you led me under your sin. You had me
Hello, everyone. Please start to take your seats. We will start in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TUM.ai Summit. A warm welcome to all the people who are on site, but also a warm welcome to all the people who will attend virtually. So here are the cameras, so we can also say hello and wave hello to all the virtual attendants. So my name is Toby, and I will moderate you today through this amazing event. I joined TUM.ai about 3 years ago, and shortly afterwards, we organized the very first big event of TUM.ai, the GPT-3 Megathon, back then in collaboration with OpenAI. And in parallel, so that was around the beginning of 2021, we registered TUM.ai as an official non-profit organization. Since then, TUM.ai grew a lot, and by a lot, I mean a lot. And you will hear more about that later, also from the team leads. And all of that is only possible thanks to all the members who are volunteering and to all our partners, so the companies who are supporting us. And many of them, the members and the partners, they are here with us tonight. So please, everyone, give a huge round of applause for all of them. So the AI Summit is a very new format of TUM.ai. About 1 year ago, some members recognized the need for such an event here in Munich. And they just said, hey, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's organize such an event. And here we are. And I know that the people who organized this, and 2 of them, they will be on stage shortly, they put a massive amount of work into this. It's a huge challenge for students. You have to balance this with your working student positions. You have to balance this with your exams. So I think especially for students, organizing such a massive event is really a huge challenge. So also for them, please give them a huge round of applause. So, but I don't want to talk too much because we have a packed agenda tonight. I directly want to hand over to our very first special guest. The official welcome and opening of the TUM.ai Summit will not be done by us or by me. Rather, today, we have the director or Amtschef from the Bavarian Ministry for Digital Affairs with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Hans Michael Strepp.
Yeah, hello everyone. Great to see you all here. I have to unlock my iPad just. And just some short words from me before you start here. Welcome to this year's summit, The Current State of AI, Questioning the Status Quo. Wow. It's wonderful to see so many faces here. Certain you will have a great time exchanging ideas and networking here in the Bavarian AI community. What is our aim in Bavaria with our AI ecosystem? We want to build the best AI ecosystem in Germany. That's why we need you. As every good strategy lies on 3 pillars. Yeah, 3 pillars. The first pillar are you, the talents. The second may be our strategy from the Bavarian state, where we have a Bavarian high-tech agenda with $5.5 billion. And third, it's the amount of the, let me see, sorry. Just I'm looking for it. Yeah, let's start at this point. Sorry. Let's start with Bavaria always has embraced new technologies like AI at nowadays, and yeah, there's the third pillar. Sorry, it's the many startups, surely, and large companies who move here. And of course, you never know what's first. It's you, the talents, who attracts the companies, or are the companies who attracts students and talents like you. I'm not talking just about only international blue chip companies like Amazon, Google, and others who are building their sites here in Munich. I'm talking particular about the many startup and small and medium-sized companies that are developing fascinating AI tools here in the middle of Bavaria. Let me briefly, very briefly mention a few figures that illustrate Bavaria's strength. In Germany, we got 30 unicorns, and 6 of them are based here in Munich. Germany, we got only 1 decacorn, and imagine it's based in Munich. And in addition, what makes me very proud, last year, more new companies have founded here in Munich than in Berlin. Who's here from Berlin? Sorry for that. Okay. But we're not stopping here. What we do with our high-tech agenda is to create 3,800 new key positions in the Bavarian universities. Among thousands of them are new professorships, and 100 of them in the field of AI. I think this is a good reason to be here. And we're not stopping here with the AI ecosystem in the universities. What we aim is to connect science and industry, to transfer key insights from research into practice and vice versa. For example, we want to transfer the knowledge about the current advancements in AI, including large language models, into our industry. This is our goal when we started our program called KI Transfer Plus, or AI Transfer Plus. That is to support small and medium-sized companies to introduce AI into their business. We do it in a holistic way and in a long-term way. As you can see, Bavaria is doing the best to attract the biggest minds to live and work here. We spend billions of euros in research and development. We provide hands-on training on SMEs, and we host important conferences like TUM.ai Summit here. Now I ask you, enjoy the program and start networking. And thank you so much. Have a great time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schrepp. So you heard it, 1 decacorn from Munich. Maybe we have 1 more in a couple of years from TUM.ai. Let's see. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 special TUM.ai members here on stage. These are the team leads of the partners and sponsors department at TUM.ai. So the people who are basically in charge for this very event. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Christoph Schmidt and Alexandra Lessing.
Thank you, Toby, for the nice introduction, and also warm welcome to everybody of you. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces, but also so many new faces here in Munich. This is the wrong presentation. It's the first time that we're organizing the AI Summit, so it's the first big conference that we are hosting. So maybe there are some hiccups along the way. This is actually going to be the next keynote speech, but we need some technical assistance.
Can you help us? Der funktioniert nicht mehr.
Und der Klicker funktioniert.
Funktioniert?
Let's start. Everything comes in pairs of 3. They're not more than 2 keynotes, so I think now we should be good to go. Are we good to go?
Yes, I think so.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Perfect start. From now on, I would say it can only go better. Sorry for that. But anyways, as I said, warm welcome. So happy to have so many of you here. We are very excited. We've been planning this for a long time, and it's not only Alex and myself, but we are a very big team, a very big community, and we're very happy to host you as a purely student-led, volunteer-led student initiative that is organizing and has been in charge of that, as also Toby already mentioned. And I think Alex is going to tell you a bit more about what is our DNA and what we are doing.
Exactly. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the AI Summit. We're actually sold out for both days, so very happy to have all of you here today. Thank you. Then let's start with who we are actually as a student initiative. So we were founded not that long ago, only 3 years back in 2020, and we've actually grown a long way since then. We can call ourselves now the biggest AI student initiative in Europe. We have around 140 active members that are driving the diverse AI projects that we have, and already about 200 alumni, and most of them are actually working as AI professionals already all around the globe. So what sets our community apart is really that we're, of course, an international community, like Munich as a location also is, but it's really the dedication of people and the heart they put into the work. When I joined 1 year ago to TUM.ai, I didn't think that something like the AI Summit would be possible, and just 1 year later, and it's really because we can count on the people that are putting in the work, and it's just, yeah, very nice to have people that are driving the AI projects, passionate about it, reading up on it. So far for that. TUM.ai is really about the people, and we want to empower students on their AI journey, whether they want to become industry professionals, whether they want to found a startup, or solely want to expand their domain knowledge. And we do this via specifically the application of AI, complementing what we learn at university in different courses and adding hands-on experience to this. And that's how we believe that we're achieving our mission to being an organization that's driving societal impact under the slogan AI for everyone.
Exactly, and this vision is actually translated into 3 key pillars that we have at TUM.ai. As I said before, completely student-led, and kind of what we are trying to achieve is to provide the best peer-to-peer education in the field of AI that is out there. Because education is what we as students are doing at the moment, and we are trying to build that network through university lectures. We are currently, one of our current presidents just held a lecture on AI at TUM in front of 1,000 people. We're organizing workshops that are open to everybody to join. We're going to do them hybrid, where people can attend and actually learn skills and apply them and have that transfer from theory that you're learning in university and actually apply them to real-world use cases. As a second pillar, we're focusing a lot also on entrepreneurship. We have the AI Incubator program, which is currently in its 2nd iteration, which is a very early stage entrepreneurship program for early stage founders, where we want to equip them with the tools and the network to take their ideas in AI and bring them into a thriving startup. As a second thing, we have the Makeathon, which what Toby already said is with what TUM.ai has started out with, which is where we're trying to build a community of hackers. We engage with the partners and try to build new AI tools and really get our hands dirty, because I think the community that you've seen and that you see around, there's so many TUM.ai people here today, they're active students within the field, and they're actually trying to push the boundary within the AI field and currently looking for new opportunities and be at the forefront there. And the third pillar is actually applying AI. As I said, on the Makeathon, we like to get our hands dirty. And this is also what we're doing in the industry corporations. This is a format, actually the biggest one in TUM.ai, where we get together with partner companies over a period of 12 weeks, and a team of TUM.ai students actually implementing real-world use cases and solving for customers. And at the same time, our members, as well as our talent pool, gets experience and insights from the experts that we are working with. And as a last point, of course, it's always good to learn from the outside, but I think pushing the boundary and being at the research forefront and actually benefiting from the ecosystem that is provided in Munich is really great. And I think there, in terms of in-house R&D, we will also push forward. And this leads us to the achievements. So throughout these different projects, over the last 3 years, we have managed to reach more than 1,600 people, having worked with plus 50 partners throughout the different pillars, and organized projects from sub-Saharan Africa over to Europe and even in the US. Out of TUM.ai, 8 successful startups have exited, which have either been in the AI incubation program or also former TUM.ai members. And this is kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a network and the ecosystem and provide the young minds and the students the opportunity to get in contact with the people that are actually practicing it every day and giving them the resources.
Great. Then let's continue with the ecosystem that we managed to build over the last years. And it's really, maybe take a look around. Might be quite representative that we have a lot of different players and stakeholders here, because we consider AI to be a societal topic that's not just for techies, but it's something that is going and is already touching all parts of our society, and that's also what you can see here. So students are our main value proposition. We are students, we're doing offerings from students for students, so we always are thinking how can we bring more value to them specifically. But in addition to that, we're also working together with researchers and academia to really be at the forefront of latest AI technological advancements, as well as also keeping contacts to policymakers. And on our entrepreneurial pillar that we heard earlier, I think we're very much talking to startups, learning from them, and also being in contact with VCs. We're pitching them our ideas and are getting feedback from that, and I think that's also a very vital part of it. Finally, obviously, we have also corporations, and we are here to understand which AI projects are actually out there, what's working, which capabilities do our students maybe need to bring if they want to make this transition to be an AI professional. And there's really lots of great corporations that are supporting us, giving insights, and keep the conversation going.
Exactly. And within that ecosystem that we're currently working in Munich, we in TUM.ai have a saying, nothing is too big, and we always would like to think big. And I think this is also what has been the mentality in TUM.ai, that we're not only sticking to Munich, but we have been actively also going to other cities in Europe, in Germany, starting also with Berlin, where we currently also became partner of the KI Park ecosystem, as well as going trips to Zurich with the student initiatives that we're cooperating there, as well as in Italy, in Milan, where we're trying to connect with startups. And this not only starts in Europe. Currently, a lot of our TUM.ai members are going to established research institutions also in the US, and through which we can offer more opportunities also to the talent and network. Well, so you may ask me what's next. I think for the next years to come, we really want to push forward on actually keeping the AI expertise within TUM.ai. We do not want to be students that only talk about AI. No, we really want to be people that do implement it, that are at the forefront, that are doing research. If it would be going into academia, if it would be supporting in a corporate, starting a startup, this is something where we want to bring the expertise in-house and let them learn through the partnerships that we are offering. As a second topic, we want to expand to new hubs. Munich has become, our Munich community base has become quite big, and I think we are there to also empower other initiatives. And with the new TUM campus also here in Heilbronn, I think there we can also empower definitely and inspire a lot of students to get into the field of AI and actually learn something there. Third one is grow the industry network. I think with the industry project, this is definitely our biggest project that we're currently offering, and I think that's something we definitely want to expand. Enabling that knowledge transfer between companies as well as students is a big topic for us. And I think last but not least, we have AI for everyone, what the mission is, and that's what I already said before, providing the best peer-to-peer education in AI there is. Not only from Munich, but also internationally. And we're going to do that to making our project also hybrid and even accessible online, so that education to the AI, and the best education, is coming from TUM.ai and is accessible to everybody.
Great. Then we've learned a lot about where we want to go as TUM.ai, but where are we actually at now? So over the last 3 years, we were lucky to have worked with a lot of different partners that we want to unite here, but we also want to bring not only our talent pool with members, but also students from different Munich universities, as well as other AI student initiatives that are also operating in Europe here together to be able to connect. And the whole summit is really under the motto of the 3 pillars that we have at TUM.ai: educational, entrepreneurial, and project-based. And you will see all of this also, I think, in the different schedule points that we have prepared. So we have Friday, which is our partner ecosystem day, so today, where we have 2 amazing keynotes coming up with a panel discussion. And afterwards, please feel free to grab a drink and maybe get to know some new faces. And then for tomorrow, this is more, we called it Future AI Talent Day, where we want to deep dive into specific AI topics. We have workshops prepared for really maybe even opening an IDE and coding for a bit, or also talks where you have the chance to also ask questions then, or you can also have a walk, meet some industry experts at their booths. So hopefully there's something for every one of you. And all of this obviously could have not been possible without our partners that are supporting us here with workshops, with different talks, also with their advice over the last months to set up this, this event. And really, thank you so much for your support, for believing in us as an organization, in our mission, and driving AI forward. So please give a round of applause to them. Okay, with that, I will hand it back to Tobias. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much, Christoph and Alexandra, for the TUM.ai introduction. So for all our partners, who wants to support TUM.ai as a partner, as a company? Everyone, I hope. I want to see all the hands. All right. So we have a fast-paced event. As Alexandra already mentioned, we have 2 upcoming keynotes. And right now, we will have the very first one. And this very keynote will be held by Dr. Ralf Kluge, the CTO and co-founder of AppsFactory, a key digital agency in Europe. Ralf has his PhD in information systems from the University of Leipzig and Macquarie University in Sydney. He developed the geo-tracking technology SmartRunner and was part of the academia team at Microsoft in Germany. Since 2009, he has led AppsFactory, and today he will share some insights with us about the AI revolution in digital agencies. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Ralf Kluge.
Hi, good evening to everyone. Hi. First of all, thank you to letting me speak here at TUM.ai. It's the first time at TUM.ai. It's the first time for me at the summit. So I'm actually deeply impressed of what you're doing. So thank you for that, first of all. Okay, I'm Rolf. I'm the CTO of AppsFactory. AppsFactory is an agency, a digital agency, and this agency builds application. So we build application. A lot of them we have done in the last 14 years, over 700. And we work for the big brands in Germany, for BMW, for Mercedes, in the media sector, for Süddeutsche Zeitung, for the RAD, in the finance sector, in the health sector, in the energy sector, and so on and so forth. And this speech today, this Impulse keynote, is about what is the status quo at agencies when it comes to AI, and what does AI mean to agencies? So, when I say we build a lot of applications, then an application has always a human interface, always an UI, is somehow used by a human. And this is what we focus, very human-centric. And this is why I would like to start with a statement of a human. And I was wondering, what is actually intelligence? And I was looking up a definition, a good one, and I found this one from Jean Piaget. It's a Swiss psychologist. And he said, intelligence is what you utilize when you don't know what to do. Actually, he said it in German, and I translated, but this is actually the sense out of it. And I was wondering, is AI something similar? Do you use AI when you don't know what to do or not? And I would like to prove in 3 cases whether this is the case or not. First of all, let's start with Tagesschau. Everyone from Germany knows Tagesschau. So what has AI to do with Tagesschau? When you pitched the project already 6 years ago, we said, you need to identify and address a younger user group. You need to have an app which has a vertical video, something like Insta or Snapchat. And we won the pitch, and later on, when we stepped into the project and wanted to implement it, someone was asking, who's actually cutting the vertical video? And we are pointing to each other. We said to Tagesschau, I thought you have the video cutters. And they said, no, no, you pitched it, and you said you had the video cutters. And we said, no, 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 we are software developers. And so there was a problem which needed to be solved by software. And in the end, what turned out is that we found a solution, an AI face recognition, which selects the relevant scene of a video from a landscape, the relevant scene, and shows it in the app. The problem is not solved. Because if you're in a case that you have Emmanuel Macron on this side and on this other side, Olaf Scholz, then you have a huge problem. Because then the machine somehow needs to decide politically who to show first or next, or who to show in total or not. And this is what we do not want to allow the machine to do. And this is why we built a tool which is web-based, which is somehow, first of all, fully automated, select the relevant scene, but where an editor can say, okay, let's go to Scholz first and then to Macron and back and forth, and make somehow a story out of it which is relevant for a human user. Not only that, the video is not only cutted, it's also in a sense that the video is transferred to the smartphone, and you can, the control information is given to the smartphone. You can use the video, as you can see there, with the skateboard scene in both directions. So this is why it was also a good side effect, not to cut it into a video, but also to give the information to the smartphone. So we have already one case where full automation, full AI didn't solve the problem, and where we needed to put our intelligence in order to solve the problem in a way that it serves the needs. A second case, I think for all of you who worked in a company or had worked in a company or worked in a company, who have an intranet there, you know, when you build up an intranet, things from time to time get a bit messy. You know, even with the best intentions, where did I find the information about VPN connection? Where did I find the information about Wi-Fi? What is the dock policy once again? Where's the coffee machine in the office in Cologne, and so on and so forth? And we have the same problem, and this is why we have AppsFactory GPT. So we've implemented something on top of our intranet, which is Confluence, Atlassian Confluence based, and where we can give requests to it and can ask, okay, even for new employees, it's very handy not only to raise questions to humans, but also to the machine. What is the policy back and forth? And of course, there are still improvements necessary. So if you like, to give one example, I say, for instance, where's the coffee machine in Cologne? And it gives you an answer. But if you ask, where's the coffee machine in the home office, it gives somehow the same answer. But this is a problem we can solve later on. So the second thing is where we use AI to serve a human need. Thirdly, the third case. A client came to us and said, okay, I have a huge problem with my service desk, with my IT service desk. A service desk is something where you wait for your requests, VPN is not working, or I need a new notebook, or Exchange server is not working. And what the client has recognized that the amount of tickets were growing huge, and they had only 8 colleagues, 8 employees in the first level support who needed to qualify these tickets in order to give it at the right second level support. And what we built on top is, in order to help them is that we said, okay, you can employ one new one, and this is a bot, this is a service desk bot, and we had several services. Several services in a sense that it can give right away an answer to the user, it can look up in the knowledge base and give the user right away an answer. If it's uncertain, then it gives back to the first level support in order to qualify even more, or it gives directly to the second level support in order to solve this. And this is solved by AI, all the requests which are coming in through email, but also via phone, getting recognized, transcribed, and giving on the same channel where it receives back the information to the user who had the problem. However, this thing was solved, and this was done, and it seemed to be very obvious today that we use AI for that, absolutely, to recognize speech or text and give a proper answer to it. But then they come to us and say, okay, but there's another problem. So even, just want to go back, even if we have solved these things, we have certain amount of tickets and certain amount of tickets where the handover is very hard. So if someone is on sick leave or if someone is on vacation and you have a ticket with a thread out of 50 tickets, then it's pretty hard to hand this over to another person and to go through what was happening and what was not. And here comes the thing, the solution is kind of trivial, but with this one, it needed a certain amount of time to come up with the solution, and it's actually just a summary. So you have an amount of 50 tickets, and you say a large language model, please summarize me this ticket. And it's very small. It's one case where Regina M. needed to activate their Windows, and she said, okay, I need to be at the Dienststelle, in the end it stated she will come around as soon as she knows whether she gets her car back from the mechanic. And this is stated in these 3 lines, except of 50 on the left-hand side, where someone needs to go through and which takes a lot of amount of time. So the third case where AI does not come right away with the idea, but we as humans put effort in and said, okay, our intelligence is needed in order to solve the problems and give a proper solution. So what AI is for us, and this is a very maybe solution-oriented, but also agency-oriented perspective. AI is always for us a symbiosis of technology, about automation, but also taking care of about the humans who are using this. And this is why I would like more likely to say that we use AI whether we do not know what to do with conventional algorithms. Okay, one last thing. I would like to give you an orientation where I see agencies in this software development phase, in this software jungle of AI, and I would like to start with 3 categories. One, on the left-hand side, are the SaaS providers. Everyone knows ChatGPT, everyone knows Midjourney, everyone knows other tools. They're popping up like mushrooms. There are a lot of them. It's very easy and handy. Just swipe your credit card and you can use it. You have an API, you have a user interface, you can use it. Then we have a category of hyperscalers. This is something like AWS, this is something like GCP, this is something like Azure, Microsoft. They provide a toolbox with a lot of AI tools you can use and utilize. And then we have the right-hand side, and it's hard to define this category. I call it on-premises because the solution they provide are somehow on-premises used. So in a data center, for instance. But these solutions come up from the open source community, also from research institutions, or also from software developers who provide something which runs on premises. And if you put only 2 scales on that, then you have on the one hand side the speed for time to market, which is obviously very high on the SaaS side. but very low on the on-premises side because you need to set up all the stuff by your own. And the hyperscaler has a decent amount in the middle of it. But also, think about the client compliance and also about data protection. So if you work for the police ministry, is it right to use ChatGPT? Of course not. And the client compliance and data protection laws which are out here, GDPR, state very, very clearly what you can do and what you can't do. And so the client compliance is pretty low on the SaaS side, but pretty high on the things you have under your own control. And this is where I see agencies in this area. So we are, as agency, we are no SaaS providers. We are no hyperscalers. We are no on-premises providers. What we do is we listen to the client, we listen to the customer, do consulting, do things like, okay, for this case, we can use ChatGPT. For this case, we need a large language model which runs on premises. For this case, we can use GCP and the services from Vertex AI. For that, we can use Azure, but for that, we can have a local instance of Whisper in order to have speech recognition on premises. And so it starts always with a problem of a client and a consulting phase, then goes to a design phase, but not only design when it comes to visual design, but also architectural design, process design, all the things which are necessary in order to plan what to do, in order to provide a good solution. Then the development, also the QA phase, and also the fine-tuning of the models. As I stated, some of the models are not perfect, like where's the coffee machine in my home office? And then provide a good solution, good AI solution, which of course serves the need of the client, but more importantly, serves the need of the end user. And this is where we all are in to provide solutions, using solutions as end users. Maybe from time to time we are clients, from time to time we are more the agent who provides the solution or the consultant. And this thing we are in, and what is the perspective of an agency on the AI landscape? Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you very much, Rolf, for all the insights, also for the insight about, okay, when do you use AI? And the opinion was, okay, you can use AI when you basically got stuck with conventional algorithms. That would be an idea. And right now the question is, what do you think? So we want to make it at least partially interactive. So what is your opinion about that? And I think we have time for at least one question. So, dear audience, what do you think? What is your question to Rolf about the digital agency, about AppsFactory, about one of the use cases he showed, about the opinion? Do you have a different opinion? This AI Summit is all about challenging the status quo. So also, if you have a different opinion, let us know. We have here a microphone, and we will pass it to you. So who has a question? Don't be shy.
Hi, thanks for the nice talk. So it's a question with, it's a tongue-in-cheek question. So you mentioned that, there are many different customer problems or constraints, and you build, an architecture that sort of satisfies the different constraints, requirements, GDPR, etc. So my question is, how different are the different constraints that, people come up with, that your customers come up with? And in general, if it would be possible in the near future, that you have an AI that is trained to develop this architecture, that automatically solves this in some sense, democratizing the design process.
Very good question. Thank you so much for that. So I must say it's totally different. So if you work in the public sector, so it's totally different than if you work in the media sector, for instance. Media is very much dynamic, very much front-running, trying things out, tearing things down if it's not working, and so on and so forth. Whereas in the public sector, it's more, you need to be very conscious about the data. If you work for instance, police ministry, so no data the data must not leave the building actually. So you need to do everything on premises. So, and the question whether AI is at one point so intelligent or so smart that they come up with a solution. So I just raise a problem in and the proper solution comes out. I think it's a bit of a way, I would say. So take the example. Someone comes to an AI and say, okay, I have a problem with the handover process of a ticket of 15 entries. What would be the answer of ChatGPT? I don't know. I haven't tried, but let's try this evening. And if ChatGPT has a solution for that, which is close to that and serves the needs, then I'm completely convinced that we're very close. If not, then I think it's a bit of a step, I would say. But thank you for the question.
Hi. So when clients approach you with question and when they ask for solution by AI, in what percentage actually the solution can be given without AI, and how well are they informed of whether AI is needed in fact or not?
I would say 82.3%. No, actually, so AI is it's a tool out of a toolbox, a very strong one. And from time to time, it's just one part of the solution. But in some cases, also the whole solution. So it depends. So it totally depends. And I think it's a perfect tool for getting to the next step of automation. And as soon as you're approaching a problem where you say, okay, this is really a tricky one, so I can't solve this conventional solution, then there's somehow a trigger where some AI can help. But also, as you may know, it can't help in any case. So in every case, sorry, because it's also not deterministic from time to time if you work with large language models, for instance. So to process it afterwards, if you have an algorithm which is later on gets in the output of the large language model, it's very hard to work with it if it's not deterministic. So also this clue needs to be somehow recognized in order to provide a good solution. Unfortunately, I can't provide you a percentage. It's different. But from time to time, only a small portion. Usually, from time to time, also a bigger portion. But thank you for that question.
Okay, and one final question from Jordi.
Thank you, Tobias. Thank you, Rolf. I'm just coming from my workplace, and there we've been crafting a solution for computer vision to read out measurements of a gauge reader, like pressure measurements and so on. And they've been working weeks on this, and then they put it into the new functionality of ChatGPT that you just submit a picture and it did a perfect readout. And I see this as a movement that basically before we did really detailed deep learning fine crafted models, and now it seems to move in the direction that everything becomes one solution that fits a lot more cases. So my question to you is, what do you think is the development of consorting in this direction? Because I feel like there's less and less detailed engineering involved, and it's more into just plug and play for a lot of problems. And yeah, what do you think? Is consorting going to be a bit reduced, or is the mass volume of new use cases kind of compensating for that?
I didn't get the case completely, but I would say ChatGPT, large language model, brings us a lot in order to get new ideas and get new ideas about solutions we can provide. And of course, plugging in the pieces and building blocks on top of it is much more handy and much easier in this case than it was before. So than it was years and years before. So I would say, so the consulting part still remains, because at some point you need to explain the solution to someone who's so for us as an agency, we always need to explain what we have done, even if you don't know at some point in detail, and some points are a black box, we still need to know the inputs and the outputs. So I wouldn't take consultancy out, but still building things and sticking things together is much more handy now than it was, I would say, 10 or 15 years ago. Does it serve your, is it a good answer to you? Does it?
More or less. I think it's less engineering involved in the future. And I think you're right in the way it's more plug and play, and it's going to be more on a system architecture level perhaps, and less on a model fine-tuning level.
And also depends on the application. There might be cases where there's even more engineering involved and needed because you need to or want to run things on on-premise infrastructure. Then it's even more engineering needed. So no black and white, I would say. It's more. We get enough new tools out of this, and this is great for automating processes, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much for all the questions, and thank you, Rolf. If you have any further questions, you might meet Rolf in the break or maybe even afterwards. So I guess feel free to approach him. And we directly head towards our next keynote for this evening. And this will be presented by Dr. Ahmad Ahmadi. Ahmad is a senior solution architect for deep learning at NVIDIA. He earned his PhD in medical informatics here at TUM and here in Munich, and his professional background spans 18 years, focusing on medical image analysis and multimodal clinical decision support for disorders. Today, he will talk about the power of AI in healthcare. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Ahmad Ahmadi.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here, especially as a TUM alumnus. My name is Ahmad, and as announced, I'm a senior solution architect with NVIDIA. My talk is about the power of AI in healthcare. NVIDIA has a lot of interest for healthcare. And the domain of healthcare is a very large domain, though. It's an incredibly vast topic. And the way that NVIDIA has approached it, we are in contact with, I think you know that we are in contact with a lot of companies, a lot of startups, a lot of academic medical centers. And the way we work also as solution architects is we try to swarm the field. We try to learn what are the road-blocking computational workloads, which are blocked because of performance. And we try to boil it down into platforms that bring the most benefit to the largest user groups. In healthcare, this is divided into 5 verticals. Namely, and each vertical has its own software toolkit that is associated with it. Yeah? And depending on the vertical, also its own hardware platform. The 5 verticals that we are looking at here are, from left to right, genomics, for which we have a framework called Parabricks. We have drug discovery, for which we have BioNeMo. Then we have biomedical imaging, for which we have co-founded an initiative between industry and academia called MONAI. And we have a platform for medical devices, for which we have both a software toolkit called Holoscan and a hardware platform called IGX. And finally, we have our own platform for natural language understanding, natural language processing, which is called NeMo. My journey at NVIDIA began 2.5 years ago. I came with a completely 100% academic background and started as a solution architect. My domain of expertise is firmly set in the middle of this slide in medical imaging, maybe a little bit of leaning towards medical devices. And I was just amazed to learn so much in such a short time about what kind of use cases are there for AI in healthcare. I learned a lot in the last 2.5 years from my colleagues, and I'll teach them about what I know about biomedical imaging. And I'm going to try to replicate this experience for you tonight. So I'm going to take you on quite the ride through, I announced it on LinkedIn, 101 use cases of AI in healthcare. It's not, I didn't count it, yeah. But it's a lot. So let's get started. If you pay attention from left to right, these different platforms also represent different scales of healthcare analysis. From the smallest components in our body, our chromosomes and our genetic encoding, to molecules, proteins, then larger to cells, whole organs, to surgical operating rooms, the hospital environment, and then to healthcare-sized problems, healthcare system-sized problems for which we have large language models that can address them. And this is also the agenda for tonight. Let's go through these different scales. We start at the very small scale, our genomic, our genetic encoding, our genome, our chromosomes. And here, NVIDIA is accelerating a lot of workflows with AI. Why is that important? Because in 2001, analyzing a human genome from a single human cost $100 million. And in the last 20 years, this has exponentially decreased. We're now at the scale where we can analyze a genome for less than $100. Consequently, this means that the amount of data is also exponentially rising in the last years, and it will reach 40 exabytes in the next decade. We're at the position where we are analyzing so many exomes and genomes that we're having trouble keeping up processing it. And this is an area where NVIDIA likes to work, where it's really difficult to process the amount of data. NVIDIA is helping across this entire computational genomics workflow. This workflow is separated into 3 parts: primary, secondary, and tertiary analysis. In primary analysis, you try to identify the sequence of the nucleotides, TACG. And this is typically done with, for example, small bioluminescent readouts. These are genome sequence scanners, and we collaborate with nearly all genome sequence providers, providers of devices for genome sequencing. And we accelerate them with GPUs, and we provide them with specialized software. For example, AI models that are accelerated with our inference acceleration toolkit called TensorRT. Also, as well as our low-level CUDA primitives, which run on the GPU. In secondary analysis, once you have, of course, analyzed the sequence, there are arrows which you need to polish. That also benefits from AI models. The secondary step is alignment. You cannot read the whole genome out in one long sequence. How it's done, imagine it like a long spaghetti that you chop up into small parts, and you read those. This is called short read sequencing. Maybe you can get lucky and you have long read sequencing, then the snippets are longer, but you still need to align them. Computationally, this is a very heavy task. And then after you've aligned it into a long spaghetti, so to speak, you still need to analyze what kind of variants are on the genome. This is called variant calling, and AI models accelerate these workflows tremendously. And we have a platform for this called NVIDIA Parabricks, which accelerates it by factors of more than 100. And it applies deep learning models like Google's Deep Variant, which are accelerated, again, also with TensorRT. And finally, the tertiary analysis is to analyze the exome or the genome of several patients in a population and do interpretation and analysis of populations. And for this, we have our accelerated data science library with tools like dimensionality reduction. You have clustering techniques, nearest neighbor techniques, boosted random trees, and so on. And this is all in Rapids to accelerate these workloads. NVIDIA is making a real-world impact with this in accelerated genomics. We have just 3 examples from the slide. Stanford University has set the world record for fastest DNA sequencing in under 5 hours. This translates to direct bedside care. You can get a sample and analyze the genome within less than 5 hours, and then the doctor can make an informed decision how to proceed with treatment. NanoString has achieved 20 times faster cell segmentation. And finally, Ultima Genomics were the first to cross that sound barrier of providing genome sequencing under $100. Why do we want to analyze the genome at all? Why is it so important? On the one hand, it encodes potential genetic markers for diseases that may occur. On the other hand, they encode what kind of proteins are produced in our body. They are the encoding for the amino acid sequences that would generate proteins. And proteins are the fundamental building block of programmable biology and the first and most important step towards drug discovery. Generative AI is a very important part here, that plays a very important part. It turns biology from science to engineering, basically. We've seen an exponential surge of academic AI papers in this field. Very famous ones are AlphaFold, AlphaFold 2. There are lesser known ones like ESM, ESM2, or DiffDoc. They're lesser known, but not less impressive. You can analyze different workflows, or you can provide different workflows with it in biology, predicting virus evolution, predicting gene expression, complex structures of molecules and proteins. You can generate them from scratch, out of thin air, as new candidates for drugs. You can generate functional proteins, and you can control the generation and design it towards functional primitives that you desire as the pharmacologist. Now, generative AI accelerates this process of drug discovery. Early drug discovery has 3 steps. You need to identify the target that you want to treat with a drug. Then you need to develop leads, new candidates for drugs. And then you need to optimize them towards a drug candidate and then go towards certification. The traditional early discovery workflow takes 4.5 years for in silico medicine, and it cost them $500 million. Then they started applying generative AI, and they were able to reduce that to 1.5 years, 3 times faster, but they reduced the cost from $500 million to $2 million. That's a 200 times cheaper process to develop, to go through this early drug discovery pipeline. We have comprised a lot of AI models in a platform, in a software toolkit called BioNeMo, which runs on NVIDIA DGX Cloud. There's even a service on that, a BioNeMo service, which allows to access these things at a click, which we're going to see in a little bit on the next slides. There are 5 key workflows in there. Protein generation, so you can generate new proteins from scratch, similar to other proteins, or, as I said, out of thin air. You can map amino acid sequences to learned embeddings, vector embeddings, which you can then use to fine-tune towards other downstream tasks, like classification or regression, like how toxic is this particular molecule. And then you have amino acid sequences which you can translate to 3D structures. AlphaFold is one of those examples. ESM-fold is another. Molecular generation is the task of taking a molecule and then generating molecules that are similar to that, small molecules, drug candidates. And finally, molecular docking. Once you have a small molecule and a 3D structure of a protein, you can predict with AI models in very fast time how they will dock and whether this will have the desired pharmaceutical effects. Let's look at an example. This is a demo, basically. This is a demo from our own experience. Think of how the COVID experience for us was and how the COVID pandemic went. This is an example of the prediction of the 3D structure of the Omicron variant of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. There's a particular protein on that, main protease, MPRO, and this is a key protein for viral replication. The idea is we need to block that so that the virus cannot proliferate anymore. It's a drug treatment. Yeah? And the problem is that you see there is an amino acid sequence in that left box, right? There's a long sequence of letters. In Omicron, just one of those letters was different to the wild type, just one. But that leads to a different 3D configuration. In traditional drug discovery, or in this traditional process, you would need to perform X-ray crystallography on these proteins to predict, to kind of understand what is the 3D structure. You saw this in real time. We copy-pasted that into the box, predicted that structure, and it's fairly accurate. And this was this fundamental success of AlphaFold. Here is a different model, ESM-fold. Now we predicted the structure of the Omicron main protease. Now let's try to block this. Yeah? And for this, we take an antiviral medication, ensitrelvir, which worked on the COVID-19 wild type. We copy-paste the SMILE string there, and we say, now generate me 20 molecules that are similar to the small molecule. This is generated, again, in real time. You get 20 new candidates for this medication. The problem is ensitrelvir worked on the wild type, but not on the Omicron virus. But maybe if we generate similar molecules, it will stick again. So you generate 20 new similar molecules. You can even rank them by similarity, Tanimoto similarity in this example. And you can choose one and proceed in the drug discovery pipeline. So here we take diffdoc. Diffdoc takes as input the 3D geometry that we did in the first slide there. We take the main protease 3D structure of the Omicron variant and the new drug candidate that we just generated. And then we predict how this molecule will dock into the 3D geometry of that molecule. Again, you saw this happen in real time. This little cloud there with this colorful cloud are 20 candidate, or the 20 most likely candidates for the 3D docking of this molecule into the main protease of the Omicron variant. You can rank them, again, by docking strength, and experienced experts in this domain can take this now and decide which of these molecules they want to proceed with in an actual drug discovery pipeline. And this is why this pipeline gets reduced from 4.5 to 1.5 years, and why the cost reduced from 400 to 500 to 2 million. You saw a molecule where the amino acid sequence was known. What happens if we don't know this completely? But what happens if we want a molecule, a protein, where we have a functional motif of which we know it performs a certain function that we desire? You can take the amino acid sequences of that and just fill the rest with a diffusion model. It is so similar to inpainting with stable diffusion, for example. You can just fill out the blanks, let it be filled out, and you get a 3D, very likely 3D structure for an amino acid, for a protein, excuse me. These kinds of tools can accelerate the drug discovery workflow. Let's zoom out, go to the level of cells. Digital pathology. This is another field where AI has tremendous promises. In the last 20 years, a technology was developed called whole slide imaging. It's basically you take, for example, a biopsy tissue sample, you fixate it, then you cut it into sort of 20 slices, and you get a whole slide image, and the pathologists look at them. On the top left, you have an image, and then a zoom into a very small region there. The problem is these images, the benefit is these images are very informative. The problem is they're multi-gigapixel sized, and it's enormously difficult for pathologists to go through the stack of one, let alone the multiple dozen of patients that they have to analyze and rate every day. It's an enormous amount of effort. Pathologists are great at that, unfathomably. It's unreasonably effective how they are. But AI has, of course, a great promise. You can actually, in a quantifiable manner, process that whole slide at fairly acceptable speeds. You can even let the pathologies interactively annotate it, identify cells, identify other structures, choose regions of interest to process it. And then there is a model explosion for other tasks. You can identify the whole regions in that slides. You can find artery structures, arterioles, or you can, of course, predict the heat map for the probability of tumor occurrences, taking away the work that would otherwise take minutes or hours and let it be suggested by an AI system. You can also circumvent this altogether and just take the whole slide and predict something from that, like, is there a tumor in the slide or not? This can be done with multiple instance learning and transformer-based fusion, or something that I personally find super exciting. I have a background in geometric neural networks and geometric deep learning, and you can actually interpret that whole slide image as a cell graph, and you can process this with graph neural networks towards the output for the whole slide. That is the area of cells. We zoom out once more to the area of organs. Medical imaging is the essential instrument in healthcare. There are 2 million devices manufactured by 16,000 companies offering 10,000 modalities. Some of them we know, and they also really cover the entire periclinical workflow. 2D imaging modalities like ultrasound, X-ray are used for screening. 3D imaging is used for diagnosis like MRI, CT. 5D imaging intraoperatively to aid the surgeon with computer-aided surgery. These images, though, have their own challenges. They're high-dimensional, high-resolution, difficult to obtain, super difficult to annotate, and you need experts to annotate them. That is very costly, and it's really difficult to deploy trained algorithms back into the clinic because the clinical informatics systems are complex. To this end, MONAI, together with King's College London, founded an initiative in 2019 called the Medical Open Network for AI, or MONAI. It's a community-led effort. NVIDIA is still very involved in it, really make sure that it's always accelerated as much as possible on GPUs. And it's really co-led by industry and academia, though. There are very different aspects to it. AI-assisted annotation with MONAI Label. MONAI Core provides all the AI logic. Federated learning, which allows you to train across multiple hospitals without violating patient privacy, without sharing data. There's a MONAI Model Zoo for pre-trained models, and a concept called MONAI Application Packages, which makes it much easier to deploy models into the cloud, into the hospital, or into edge AI devices. A good example is Auto3DSec. It's a tool that allows you to identify anatomies in 3D volumes. And it is challenge winning. The cool thing, though, is that it's a pipeline that encapsulates a lot of data science knowledge that was previously not necessary and would lead to development times of 6 weeks, down to just a few days, because it encapsulates a lot of it into an automatic way. Just last week, we won the very prestigious Brain Tumor Segmentation Challenge. A colleague of mine in California, they developed this, and they won the BRATS Challenge with this, which is a really big achievement. There are other medical imaging AI use cases. Generative AI is important here too. You see in the top row the image of an elderly woman with a cortical atrophy. It's a generated image, but we can prime it, condition it, and prompt it to generate a patient or to simulate such a patient. On the bottom row, you have a pretty rare case, or an image that simulates a pretty rare case of an adult with hydrocephalus, these enlarged ventricles. A very rare image to come across, and you would need to aggregate many data from several hospitals to find such cases. But it's a good way to address this long tail problem. It's in essence a very intelligent augmentation method to fill up areas in the data manifold where you otherwise would have difficulties to find samples. Registration is the task to align data that you had in during preoperative planning, to align it to the intraoperative situation where the patient has moved and is in a different pose. So either you don't want to throw away the preoperative plan, you need to do registration. Traditionally, this would take minutes to hours to perform. With AI models, CNNs, or transformer models, this is on the order of seconds and leads to intraoperative usage. Then there is self-supervised learning, which is a really good opportunity to utilize tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of scans that lie archived in PACS systems in the clinic. You can pre-train encoder models, vision transformers, or CNNs, and then further fine-tune them on various downstream tasks where you have very little annotated data. And finally, reconstruction, which allows you to perform faster scans, which is important for patients who cannot lie still in the scanner, or pediatric patients, children who have difficulties holding still in an MRI scanner. All of this can be accelerated with AI. And medical imaging leads us to the next larger scale, the operating room and the hospital. Here we are dealing with medical instruments. I'm giving a trigger warning. Yeah, the next 4 slides have surgical scenes and videos on the slides. It's not too gruesome. It's minimally invasive. If you have problems with that, just close the eyes, pretend this is a podcast. This is almost ASMR anyway, and I will tell you when you can open your eyes again. Medical devices have their own challenges. You need to interface with a very rich ecosystem of sensor providers that provide signals, like imaging, laparoscopic video, ultrasound systems, and so forth. You need optimized models to allow to perform real-time applications. Think of a 4K video in HDR in laparoscopy at 60 Hertz. You need to process this, and not only you need to process it in real time, you need to do it with ultra-low latency. And to this end, NVIDIA built the Holoscan software toolkit and a platform called Clara IGX. And with this, it's possible to do this at 10 milliseconds of latency. And you can do this for multiple screens simultaneously even. We build these kind of platforms, we bring it to the right partners, and then they do magic with it. This is a demo from 1.5 years ago with an early dev kit. This is IHU University in Strasbourg, the Kama Lab, and they use this platform, and we help them also, to port a research prototype that runs 5 concurrent models onto this system. And these 5 concurrent models, they run instrument detection, they segment organs, critical view of safety, they estimate the remaining time of surgery, which is important to optimize clinical workflows outside of the operating room. And they detect the surgical phase, which can then be used to improve something like automatic structured reporting of the surgery. And all of this on a small box, which is on the bedside. No need to stream it to any data center or anything. This is an example of Moon Surgical. They have used it for AI-guided surgical robotics. They use AI models to detect the surgical tools and then automatically steer the camera of the laparoscope to hold the tips of the surgical tools in sort of the mid-frame. Otherwise, the surgeon would need to take hands off. You can see this in the video in the top right. Take hands off, reposition the camera, get back to the tools, continue. And this is a bit of a cumbersome thing to do. It delays the surgery and reduces the focus. And with robot-controlled laparoscopy video, this is much easier to achieve and makes the surgery safer. Another example, very recent, just 2 weeks ago, Orsi Academy used this to enhance, used AI to enhance augmented reality in surgery. In endoscopy video, it's helpful if you segment and overlay 3D models of anatomical areas. The problem is, when you do this, you block the view of the surgery. You block it because you see the overlay, not the surgical tools anymore, which would not be very safe. And it's probably one of the main reasons why AR has not really reached mainstream surgeries yet. On the top right, you see a segmentation model segmenting non-organical structures there and overlaying them back on top. It looks almost naively simple, yeah? Because, of course, that's what you want. But it's been a roadblocker for the last 20 years because these kinds of scenes are so difficult with organs, with large specularities and reflections on the organ surfaces, blood, smoke, everything. And you can segment this much more robustly with AI models. And we're very proud that this platform, Holoscan and IGX, was picked up by more than 70 instrument providers by now and is accelerating them and making surgery safer also for the patients. Anybody who closed the eyes, you can open them again. And now to the elephant in the room, large language models. We had it in the previous talk. There's just enormous potential for that, needless to say, right? If we have this kind of advantages on our cell phones, the doctors can benefit from it too. There's a great paper by Meshko and Eric Topol. I can really recommend it. I took the figure from there because it's such a great summary of what can be done. Just a few examples. For medical professionals, they can benefit from clinical documentation that is auto-generated, creating discharge summaries, really sped up with LLMs, interpreting radiology scans, suggesting treatment options, and so forth. For patients, analyzing lab results, something that I would like to have too. Just take a photo of my blood sample, results, and then have someone explain it to me. Doctors don't always have time for that, and I don't even blame them because their schedule is so busy. Disease descriptions, analyzing variable data, symptom assessment, interpreting physician's notes, which may have been generated with AI in the first place. You never know. So the potential is endless. And of course, there are so many challenges, caveats, and roadblockers here. This is just a word cloud of the things that came to my mind while I was preparing this talk. You have safety, calibration, you have regulation, you have explainable AI, hallucinations, how do you incorporate domain knowledge, uncertainty, explainability, diversity, fairness, bias, is just insane. So many problems around it. Luckily, the talk title today is The Power of AI, not the dangers of AI in healthcare. But of course, it's something we should not forget. I would like to, these are a lot of entrepreneurs in the room, just flip around the thinking of this. Each of these words is a PhD thesis, is a research topic for an entire university chair, is the topic for a business idea, could be the next startup. There's so much potential and so much growth potential and whole ecosystems that may pop up. And this is the final one for the road. A patient is not just an image. A patient is not just the post-operative report. It's not just an electronic health record, not just a pathology whole slide image scan and result, or a patient is not even only his genome, their genome. A patient is the sum of it all, and doctors take all of that into account to reach conclusions. And this is the roadmap for the next 10 years. Again, a fantastic paper which Eric Topol co-authored, took the figure from there. It's just brilliant. You can combine images, electronic health records, signals, multiomics, graphs. You can even combine, we have the technology now, you can combine medical domain knowledge from literature, publications, clinical notes, and knowledge graphs. You can combine it into that. And then provide flexible interactions with the AI through the large language models, which are sort of crystallizing to become the glue that holds all of that together. And then provide applications like chatbots for patients, interactive note-taking, augmented procedures. I promised you 101 use cases. I hope it was not too much. But you've seen a lot of these examples that I'm mentioning here. Speaking of which, I hope I didn't overburden you with a lot of use cases and examples. I hope it was interesting. But I'm sure you also have a lot of questions. So feel free to get in touch. I'm here on the floor tonight together with my two fantastic colleagues, Katja and Dylan from marketing. Just talk to us. If you ever have problems with accelerating your workflows, talk to us. And the first step to get in touch with us also is sign up into the NVIDIA Developer Program. It's for free. You can just create an account, and then you get access instantly to AI technical training. 16 courses are available for free to developers who sign up. And then, if you're a startup, accelerate your startup journey with NVIDIA Inception. This is our network program for startups. You can register. It's for free. Participation and joining is for free. And then you get access to the latest developer resources. You get preferred pricing on NVIDIA products, hardware and software, and you get exposure to the VC community. So I can only encourage you to take a look at these 2 points. And again, if you have questions, we're on the floor. We're happy to take them. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much, Ahmad, for this very, very interesting talk. Also, for example, how we can combat current viruses like the Omicron variant, which, as far as I know, is still among us. So very, very interesting. Thank you very much. Since we are running out of time, I would suggest we have time for one question. And since we anyway have the break right afterwards, I also suggest you can approach Ahmad right there and the other colleagues from NVIDIA. So, ladies and gentlemen, time for a question. Oh, we have the same. Okay, that's very, very good. Do we have a microphone? Okay, first, okay. I would suggest, wait. So, out of fairness, do we also have other people? I know it's good, because I saw a raising hand over there. Is this right? Okay. Then you can ask in the break.
Hi. Thank you so much for your talk. It was like super interesting. I hope my question is not too stupid. I'm not sure what exactly do you use to transform just a normal sequence to 3D structure, but I was just curious if the reverse was possible, because theoretically, active center is so tiny, so you can just like manually find something that is geometrically would interact with that and do the reverse. Does it work?
That's a very good question. I know I've read the AlphaFold paper. I didn't read the AlphaFold 2 paper. That direction I was kind of understanding, not sure about it anymore. And apologies, again, I'm in the middle of that slide. I'm medical imaging. So I think I'm not qualified to answer that question. It's a very domain-specific topic. We have solution architects for each of these products. So I cannot answer whether the other way around would make sense or whether it's possible. Apologies for that. But I'm happy to take that question. Reach me, come out to me, and then I can write down a name. I can ask it and send the email, send the answer by email. Sorry for that. Ask me something about imaging.
Okay, but I would suggest you have all the time in the break, I mean, especially afterwards, to ask like as many questions as you have about medical imaging. I think there are multiple questions, like many of them. And therefore, I would say give a huge round of applause for Ahmad.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, before we start the very short break, let's do a very short crowd check. So who enjoyed the evening so far? Who did not enjoy it? I didn't. Please keep your arms down. Okay, I would suggest we do a very, very short break, 10 minutes only. So use the time to go in toilet, something like that. Grab a drink. We have some drinks over there. Talk to your neighbors. And then we see each other in 10 minutes.
PA. Okay, jetzt hat. Hast du einen Pegel von mir? Blab, blab, jawohl, okay. Der ist gerade am Mikrofonieren, das ist halt hier einfach total das Chaos. Entschuldigung. So. Es müssen ja meine Lippenbewegungen reichen. Hast du jetzt wieder Bühne? Aber siehst du die Bühne oder siehst du sie nicht? Boah, scheiße, ey, echt, warte mal. Ich rufe zurück. Nein. Können wir einfach mal ein Kamerabild im Stream haben? Mich auf der Bühne und ich brauche einfach Ton offen, weil sonst wird das nicht. Schick einfach bitte das Kamerabild jetzt raus. Können wir es jetzt rausschicken? Bist du jetzt draußen? Kamera, danke.
Habt ihr den Livestream neu gestartet?
Wir sind gerade dabei. So, 1, 2, 3. Der Lukas. So, jetzt habe ich mal kurz reingebrüllt. Du siehst mich vielleicht hoffentlich jetzt mal telefonieren in 30 Sekunden. Ich setze mich jetzt einfach mal am Stuhl, drehe mich wieder zur Kamera. Ich weiß nicht, ob er welche mich jetzt hat, die Center oder die rechts oder links. 1, 2, 3. Dann setze ich mich kurz hin. Was muss ich machen? Das ist Wahnsinn, gell? Also ich habe jetzt geklatscht, ihr müsst noch mal zählen. Jetzt höre ich mich selber. Was kann ich machen? Wir müssen den Stream neu starten. Am YouTube. Nein, wir gehen mit SDI. Wir gehen direkt in die Zenit rein. Können wir ganz kurz. Also wir haben 4 Sekunden, glaube ich, oder? 3 Sekunden. So, wir gehen mit. Wir gehen mit den Kameras, gehen wir direkt in die Zenit rein, richtig über SDI. SDI Ja. So, ich nehme dich jetzt einfach mit auf die Bühne. Ich nehme jetzt einfach mal mit. Das ist gerade. So, jetzt haben wir wieder unsere 30 Sekunden. Bing, bang, bong. Ich setze mich nochmal hin. So, ihr seht es jetzt. Kann ich runterkommen? Gut, danke. Wir haben es jetzt von 7 auf 5 schon mal runter.
Okay, everyone. I think we are ready to go. Please have a seat. We are ready for part 2.
Warte mal. Warte mal, Lautsprecher. So, ich mache jetzt hier mal kurz mal. Guck mal da. Warte mal, ich kriege wieder jetzt einfach mal. Kannst du mal kurz übernehmen? Und teilen. Sind die Kameras auf 50p? Ja. Machen nur 50p.
Also ich sag, das ist irgendwas mit YouTube, weil das kann nicht sein, dass YouTube Audio mit so wenig Delay rausgibt.
Also wir haben jetzt am Pult 200 Millisekunden. Jetzt haben wir hier, wir haben jetzt 600 Millisekunden.
Okay, okay, okay. Please have a seat. I hope you enjoyed the break, had some drinks, maybe already some snacks. So, welcome back to the second part of the first day of the TUM.ai Summit. Right now, we will have a very, very interesting part. Why? Because the AI Summit is about challenging the status quo of AI. And therefore, we will have a panel discussion with experts from a diverse set of backgrounds. But before we introduce them, they're sitting right here, let's do a crowd check and let's see how diverse our audience here is. So raise your hand. Who's a researcher? Researchers? Who is a business expert, marketing expert in this area? Okay. Who is working at a company as a machine learning engineer, data scientist, data engineer? Here we have a few. Who is a VC? Who is an investor? Okay, so if you need money, here, here are the people. And where are all the TUM.ai members? Woo! Woo! Did I forget anyone? You can let me know afterwards. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce the guests of this very panel discussion. The first one, we have Yannic Klicher. Yannic Klicher is a well-known YouTuber in the field of AI with over 200,000 followers. I gotta admit, I'm also a big fan of Yannic. He's known for his out-of-the-box thinking and unconventional perspectives on AI, especially a huge advocate for open source AI. Also, Yannic is the co-founder and CTO of Deep Judge, an AI-powered knowledge search for legal professionals. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Yannic Klicher. The second expert and panelist is Sheila Beladinejad. Sheila is the CEO of O Canada Tech, a consulting firm helping small, medium, and large enterprises to apply the best practices in digital transformation, in the cloud business, in AI, you name it. She's also the president of Women in AI and Robotics, a German non-profit. We have here some fans. And there, Sheila is dedicated to increasing women's representation in AI and robotics through advocacy and building a strong network of support. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sheila Beladinejad. The third expert is Professor Dr. Daniel Rückert. Professor Rückert is an Alexander von Humboldt professor at TUM. His field of research is in the area of AI and machine learning and their applications in the field of medicine and healthcare. Also, he's a professor at the Imperial College London. Please welcome Professor Daniel Rückert. And the fourth and last panelist is Elisa Czerski. Elisa is an entrepreneur, a philosopher, and an economist. After exploring the connections of AI, robotics, neuroscience, and ethics in research, she founded N-Robotics in 2021. She also told me in the break she actually acquired an engineer from Tesla from the US. Previously, Elisa founded the Rethink Ethics and Tech Initiative, where she wants to tackle the questions of how to develop, design, and use technologies that benefit the society as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Elisa Czerski. And finally, we have the moderator of this panel discussion, Christin Schäfer. Christin had senior roles at Deutsche Bank and Erste, was a member of the German Ethics Commission. She's the founder and managing director of X+, where she specializes in unlocking the value within data. Also, Christin has advisory roles at the German Economic Institute, at Vita Place, and at the Global Advisory Board of Binance. I think there's no better moderator than Christin for this job. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Christin Schäfer.
Thank you, Tobias, for the welcome. Thank you all. Impressive. And I think AI for everyone is already given if I have a look here on the stage. So to get a little bit grip on the topic, the current state of AI questioning the status quo. So the first round of questions I would like to see you answering is about me, myself, and AI. Maybe you would like to start by sharing your perspective on AI. What is AI? What is the relevance of AI in your field and your domain of expertise? Maybe we start with you, Daniel.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here. And I think you already heard a lot in this excellent talk previously on how AI might transform healthcare. And this is what fascinates me and where I work on. So I would really like to make AI into a tool which we can use in the clinic. So I came to Munich a couple of years ago, and I'm originally a computer scientist by training, and now I work in the medical school at the university hospital because we really want to make a difference with the AI tools which you saw earlier on people's lives. And that's quite challenging due to perhaps some of the reasons we'll discuss later on. But that's what excites me and where I really draw a lot of interest from. And I think it's also very nice to see so many of you in this area working in this domain. And I hope we can have a nice discussion about sort of the potential for AI and not so much only about the negative aspects as well.
Sheila?
So to build up on that, I also agree that AI is a tool that should be used for good. And I don't think we will ever be able to replace humans with AI, unlike some other people who have taken stage recently in Munich and claiming that AGI is close and near and will take over soon. I don't think that will happen anytime in my lifetime. But I have my own thoughts on AI. My bread and butter comes from AI, so of course I'm passionate about learning about it and so on, but also to use it responsibly as a tool that can help solve problems and solutions that can be impactful to society and so forth. So I think we can expand on these topics with upcoming questions, Christin. Yeah.
Our company does work in the legal field and specifically for lawyers, so not for people giving legal advice, but for lawyers. And the lawyers are all very excited about especially language technologies. They're happy about it. They want to get their hands on it, and they're just looking for all kinds of loopholes around the data protection and the client confidentiality so that they can use the stuff while still, fulfilling all of these things. So it's a very interesting time to be in the legal field specifically.
Yeah, so I was also sitting here, not in this crowd, another crowd as a student 5 years ago, and I always wanted to go into a field which has the biggest impact on our society, on our daily life. And so I found, years ago, the topic of AI, where not many people were really interested into that. And I really found a passion and really wanted to understand, the science behind it, the tech behind it, but also the ethical perspective. And after a few years in research, and then Corona started also, I really saw that just writing about AI, just being on the stage and saying, okay, how we can develop the right AI tools, it's not really having the biggest effect on the society, but actually creating products that actually can show that you can have a diverse company, a female-led company, creating the best tech you can have. So I created N-Robotics 3 years ago, and we do mobile robots, so anything that moves around on legs or on wheels for industrial applications. And I believe that the combination of AI and physical presence is really accelerating the potential, but also the risks of AI. So that's where my interests come from.
So summing up, I would say four times we have the drive to use AI for good, with a disclaimer that it could be used otherwise, but that's not the main focus today. Maybe just 2 questions before we go to the details. Number one, so you see my hair, I have a certain age. When did... And the second question, is there one special application that is especially valuable or especially crazy around AI you had come around in your career?
So perhaps I shouldn't say that, but I've been working with AI for, I think by now 25 years, so that just shows you how old I am. But actually, I would now use more the term machine learning, because I think a lot of what we do is not really AI, but it's machine learning. It's sort of basically building models which are data-driven, trying to make predictions. And I think it doesn't really have the same, it's not the same as trying to build general intelligence. So quite often we don't even try to do that. So I actually prefer the term machine learning. When you talk about sort of exciting or crazy applications of AI, I think there are quite a lot of them, and quite a lot of them sort of almost sort of have more the bad connotations the more crazy they are. So I think what really excites me, I work a lot with imaging, radiology, and so on, and it's sort of, you've seen this earlier, sort of in the previous talk, how AI can generate very realistic imaging and can simulate quite a lot of things and can help us ask the question, what happens if? And this is something very valuable in medicine, and that's what I find super exciting.
Some of you? Sheila?
Okay, I'm also a computer scientist, and I started learning about AI many years ago, not 25, but many years ago. And as far as, you know, well, being a computer scientist, you always think in terms of zeros and ones and technical aspects of solutions and so forth, and that is, for many years, what I was accustomed to. I would go to events talking about technical aspects of software and so forth, until maybe 5-6 years ago, when I started to diversify my perspective and go to events that were not just only technical, but also people from various other disciplines, and bringing in their perspective, you know, the ethicist, the philosopher, people from, you know, different industries from what I was working in. And I happened to encounter someone who told me about how AI and robotics can be used in agriculture to help with, you know, SDG number 2, zero hunger. And that was amazing for me to realize that there is so much good that can be done. And that became one of my favorite use cases to learn about, for example, how they could predict the weather to help the farmer, how they could, you know, choose based on the pattern that from previous harvests and whatnot, choose the right crop to plant, and so forth. So how much good could be done with AI and robotics to battle this important you know, sustainability goal, and that, you know, is my experience. I do work with investors that are not very much into sustainability, so that is a total, you know, different discussion for another question, perhaps. But yeah.
So I use AI mainly as a marketing term. I never say AI otherwise, except if it's speaking to people not in the field, because they have some sort of a vague idea that shifts over time. Yeah, I'm particularly also interested in learning from especially the language models now, because I think they sort of capture humanity, because they're sort of the statistical overlap of all of the text that we find somewhere out there, right? It's like a little bit society distilled, and if you ask it something, not nowadays with like the whole instruction tuning, but previously when it was the pure language model, you ask it something and you get back like, it's like some corner of humanity answers. And I was always really interested in that, and what that could tell us about us, right?
When I came into robotics, and I had this idea about like how AI works and for what we can use that. In robotics, we use AI mostly for environment awareness. So the robot not only collects data and analyzes data, and actually moves around and understands what is a person, where it can go around, and that's really fascinating. Actually, one of the first papers that got me into robotics was how I could train a robot walking without any real walking, actually. And I was like, wow, that's super interesting. I really have to go into the field. And also, when it comes to application, we have, on one hand, of course, industrial application, on the other hand, health applications, which are super interesting and really can be used for good, as we say. But I think, like on a more deeper level, for me, AI and robotics both, it's a it's a way of freedom. Like for me, having a vacuum robot at home or something, when you see how technology evolves over the years, every time it really changes our society. And I'm super curious in the next 10, 20, 30 years, how far that goes, how much more we can do with our time, how much more we can be efficient, and how does that change in our daily life and our complete work life.
I just have to refocus because I'm just imagining going home and not have to clean up the clothes. Everything is just done. How great could this be? Currently, yeah, everybody the newspapers are full of large language model, ChatGPT, and so on. I'm convinced, and listening to your part, what you already said, it's much more what we see as machine learning applications, and still maybe now coming to the point, where's the research? What are the current challenges? What need to be, what are the challenges? What need to be overcome? Still, maybe Yannic, you have mentioned, and in your area with the legal people, the LLMs make a difference. Maybe if you start, where do we stand, and where are we now, and what's coming next? What's possible now?
So the lawyers are not that afraid to be replaced, but what these things can do is they can make really good first drafts, for example. They can read through a lot of information, extract stuff, and things like this. They can do a bit of a memo on something, and they can write nice correspondence. So that's typically all things that the new lawyers, the younger associates would do, or the trainees in these companies. So they are typically quite worried about what happens to them now. How do they, without working through these first drafts, learn to become competent without having it done themselves 30, 50, 100 times? Yeah. So those are kind of the level where the applications are at. It's at the level of make me a first draft, but then always they will have to check, they will have to correct, and so on. So it's not yet something that you can do just fully automatically, but it's something where it's sort of an interactive thing right now. But they're very excited, and it's quite usable to them, all of these things, and has been for a while. Like even before the language models, they've used classifiers for like e-discovery. I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but it's like if you sue someone, you ask them for their relevant documents, and they'll just give you 2 million documents, and then you load them into a machine, like a program. One is called relativity, and it sifts through it and tries to classify which ones are relevant to which. So these types of things have been used for a while. Lawyers are actually quite, despite the common idea that they're anti-tech, they're actually quite into tech as long as it helps them.
And what are you expecting? So what will be the next release we might expect or we might hope for?
I don't know, I mean, the direction is clear in the legal field. It's just the number of lawyers to associates, and then the number of associates to support staff goes down continuously. So previously, one partner maybe had, I don't know, many associates, and then even more support staff just because of all of this work that they had to do. And now they probably narrow down, focus down, so the pyramid gets a bit slimmer. I don't know what the next iteration is, but the trend is probably going to continue.
It's an interesting point. It's a little bit in the opposite direction to your point, Elisa. We are getting more free time. What's the situation in robotics? So what is the current state of the art, and do we have already a breakthrough like we had now with the foundational models?
I just follow up quickly on Yannic.
Yes.
So I just saw like a LinkedIn post a few months ago. It was like, okay, the next big unicorn startup will just contain of 3 people, and like one of them is AI because they're doing most of the job. And it was like quite something we spoke about in the like Berlin ecosystem, but it's actually reality. Like I think I have a one marketing person, and we had a discussion when ChatGPT came out. Okay, do we want to extend the team? What do we want to do? And then we tried some of the tools out, and we was like, okay, probably just need one person in the team still. And when it comes to robotics, we often see like the expectations are much, much higher than the reality. For example, when we see dancing robots or like robots opening the door, things like that, it's something that's mostly hard-coded. It's something that's trained hundreds of times by a lot of engineers. It's really far off what can be done today. So that's actually something that feels good, that it's not too late for some things. But I think, for example, the level of AI we can use on our robot, and we are a really great fan of decentralized AI, for example, open source, things that are, I think, getting more and more important when it comes to advancements of robotics in general. And so it's not about how skilled they are, but how is the infrastructure around that skills, and how much efficiency we have, how much energy consumption does that need, how much data centers we need for that. So I think that's the far more interesting question.
Interesting point. Maybe to go to the medicine environment, I'm assuming a little bit robotics. We have already seen it. It's a merger. So where do we stand there, and what's your current situation and what to expect?
So I think in our field, I think there are sort of two breakthroughs which I find very exciting because they really transform the field. The one is, I think was already mentioned, large language models, because I think previously we had AI or machine learning models which would make a prediction, and sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong. And if they're wrong, you can now interact with the system. You can give, for example, additional information. You can say, what do you think will change if, for example, I have this other blood test or other parameter, and you are really able to interact with a system, which I think transforms it from just being a system which gives you an answer, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. So I think that's one thing. I think the second thing which is transforming the field is self-supervised learning, because in medicine we traditionally don't have sort of ground truth. We don't, I mean, if you, for example, ask a doctor about a certain diagnosis and you ask a second one, I think we're all familiar with most of the time they agree, but they don't always agree. So it's very difficult to know what is actually the ground truth. And of course, labeling lots of data, which is in other domains sometimes possible, in the medical domain is extremely costly because you need highly trained people. So I think learning from the data directly in a self-supervised fashion has really transformed the field and is sort of the basis for all the big foundation models which are now out there. And I think that is super exciting. I think in terms of what that all enables is, I think if you look at the field of medicine, if you study medicine today, you largely look at textbooks, and the textbooks tell you what you should do in certain conditions. So if you're above a certain age, if your blood pressure is above a certain value, then your doctor will typically give you, for example, a certain drug to lower blood pressure, because we know that's bad for you on average. But these are very generic rules, which we basically do based on millions of people, and they might not be very suitable for individuals. We, for example, know that, for example, for male and female populations, these values are not the same value, and if you treat them all the same, you have a lot of bias in the way you treat them. So I think with these AI models, we are able not only to adjust, for example, for these population biases, but we might be able to really target medicine at the individual level, at this personalized level, where actually the guidelines which your doctor will use for you are not general population guidelines, but they're actually specifically to you as an individual. And I think that is incredibly powerful, and this idea of personalized medicine is not new, but actually now with AI or with machine learning, I think it's for the first time actually possible to do that, and I think that's very exciting.
And has this concept already left the laboratories? Is it?
In certain domains, yes, but I think you also see that medicine is perhaps of all the professions, perhaps with legal, I don't know, but it's one of the most conservative disciplines out there. So it's one of the most difficult to change actual practice. And quite often for good reasons, because you don't want to use people as guinea pigs, correct? So some of it is out there, and some of it is also out there because people want to have it, because people demand to have a better solution than what's out there. So it's changing, but it's changing probably not as quickly as it should.
Yeah, maybe that's a point to broaden the view a little bit. And I know, Sheila, that's a topic also to your heart. So since a few years, we have a flood of publications from different parties regarding the role of trust in digital systems. So for example, McKinsey had published a study titled "Why Digital Trust Really Matters." Not a surprise, but it's containing a finding: when trust is low, so is adoption. So this might be also a point. So Sheila, what is your perspective on concepts like trustworthy AI or explainable AI?
I think with the recent, boosts of AI around ChatGPT and large language models and whatnot, people have experienced firsthand what could go wrong, and what could happen if the data that has been used to train these models have biases. I think we've heard so many different stories and different cases. For example, for thousands of years, humans have been storytelling, and it's an art that has, passed on through generations. And in the future, we may not be able to recognize if a story was told by a human or AI. There are, also, for example, fake news, and it is very difficult for platforms such as Meta to get a grip on it and to manage it and so forth. So these are some challenges that we see, and the root cause of all of this stuff is, I think, looking at it from the investor perspective, that there was not sufficient risk management involved when these solutions were released, and perhaps not all dimensions were considered and holistically approached. We all love, solving problems, and we find a solution. Oh, we have this great tool that is AI. It can do so many great things. It can do so many great things in healthcare, as we have, learned about, and so on. But also, we have to look at things holistically, and and think about the impact of these AI solutions in society, and having something that will truly benefit people. For example, this is again another eye-opening case that I encountered, which I had not thought about. These large language models require a lot of servers to store the data on, and how do we cool these servers, and where does the water come from, and does that take resources away from people, and then how would that impact the water of the region that is being used to host these servers, and so on. And with all these equipment that we're using more and more, what is the life cycle of these servers? What is going to happen to them? Are they going to be dumped in a developing country and forgotten and buried in the ground, or what are we going to do with that? So are we looking at things holistically? Are we taking the circular economy approach, where we look at things in a way that, is it really sustainable? Is it really helping humanity, and so on? Yeah.
So you are calling us as data scientists and engineers, we all love our tools and solutions, to really take a step back and have a broader perspective on the whole thing. Maybe to give one good example, I heard of a data center that uses the heating really to heat another environment, the flats all around. So it is possible, but of course we are asked to really think twice here and implement it. From this, maybe just a short, maybe kind of survey, what are you expecting from the EU AI Act? There is more than one section about risk management.
Well, I have to say I'm not too familiar with it, but as a researcher, I hope that it gives us enough freedom to sort of still explore different research directions without too much regulations, because especially at the basic research levels, it's very difficult to deal with regulation because you don't quite know what you're working with yet. The concepts are very open, so I hope it's going to be light on regulation for research.
I personally think that we need AI to help us understand the EU AI Act. Because I've read it, back and forth a few times, and I can't wrap my head around it. So if you come from a perspective of someone who's an implementer and wants to, implement a solution, they may be scratching their head and say, how do I do this and be compliant? So
maybe Yannic, is this something that Deep Judge can help us?
Yeah, actually, but no. Sorry, I didn't mean
Reading
to interrupt.
the EU AI Act, maybe also summarizing the main action points.
Hopefully, yeah. So at some point, the European Union had the glorious idea to protect all of your data collection, and they made very nice laws about cookie banners and so on. And now, if you go to any website, first of all, a cookie banner is slapped into your face. And every one of these is critically engineered so that if you just want to get to the stupid website, you click on the accept all or whatever, And now, what happens is these companies, they'll actually ask for more, because previously they had to be a bit restrictive, right, to not collect your mother's birthday and everything, right, because that would be a bit excessive under operate our services. But now you explicitly agree. You clicked on the button, and then they list all the things they collect about. So what has ended up is that, startups and so on, they have to invest resources into making these cookie banners, keeping these things up to date and so on. The big companies, they all get to collect even more data now than they have previously, because only very, very few people actually opt out of these things. So anytime the European Union comes with big regulations because they're all so good and want to protect all of you, think of the cookie banner, right? And then come to Switzerland.
So there are still a few weeks until this law might be finalized, so we invite you to help us in Brussels to optimize here. Elisa, from your perspective with robotics, what's the influence? What are you expecting?
Yeah, actually, I think from a startup perspective, it's also quite interesting. I was at an event at KI Park, and I spoke to many kind of different sized companies, and I think I could summarize it with uncertainty. Everyone doesn't know what really come. And I think it's really, really important to keep tech, especially this crucial technology, accessible. And when we have even more regulations, especially for small companies, it's getting more and more difficult to even get products into the market. Or you also see that you have companies who don't want to publish their solutions or their tools because they're uncertain if it's going to be legal or not. And that doesn't drive innovation. And of course, we need to take a holistic view. I also was in another conference, and I saw a talk before my talk, and she talked about how it makes sense to train your large language models more in the summer because you have a lot of energy from the solar, instead in the winter, something like that. So I think how you could take this holistic approach into a profit-oriented company is, for example, something like that. So finding really smart solutions instead of either saying, hey, that's the best for everything, or the worst for everything AI. So I think being smart about it is really the way to go. And AI Act, yeah, I am happy that the politics is actually dealing with what is happening in tech, because it's mostly not. So that's a good thing. What will come out of that, no one really knows. Even Sheila doesn't know. So.
Just want to add perhaps one thing to this. I think it's also the first time in the development of technology that we're trying to regulate the technology as we're developing it. For example, if you think about how we developed cars, you invented the car, cars were produced, and then, I don't know how many decades later, somebody came up with the idea we should have a seatbelt, correct? And it took us a long time before we actually realized how we make it more safe. And I think this is the first time, at least I can sort of think of, where we're trying to develop a new technology where we don't quite know what can all do, and we're trying to regulate it at the same time. So I think we're bound to make perhaps more mistakes than we normally do with hindsight, when you actually already have seen how many people you have killed with the technology, with cars, for example.
Yes, and it serves the point with this AI for everyone. Yeah, because it's a tool for everything, used by everyone, and I think this is in both directions. We have the huge potential, but obviously we also have a lot of worries about and the wish to protect us here. Maybe let's switch the perspective a little bit and go to companies, to partners who want to use this technology we all call machine learning, or for marketing purposes, AI. Elisa, if a company wants to buy one of your robots, how could they prepare, or could they even, would you assume, recommend to build their own, or how to prepare to buy one of your products?
Fascinating when you said healthcare is quite old school and legal is quite old school. For me, it's like production companies are quite old school and construction companies. And I was like, oh, is there any branch that is not old school when it comes to tech? So it's difficult for this legislation companies to even be open to new technologies and seeing the potential and applying it in the right way, and also being compliant on the other side. So I think it's a challenge for any kind of company that wants to have a new innovation brought into a different company. So I was at one dinner once, and I was speaking to one like construction company. I was like talking, yeah, are you using AI or robotics? He's like, yeah, he's not believing that it's gonna matter in the next 10 years. I was like, okay, we're gonna see how his company's gonna do in the next years. And I think that it's a real gap between people really hyping it and building complete business model only on AI tools, and we see more and more every day. And also a friend of mine is saying, especially for example in the creative industry, it was never the case that you use one tool, which one the best, and then next week it's going to be a complete different tool. It's going to be better. It's crazy what's going on up there. But yeah, in the end, you have also companies on the other hand who close their eyes from this technology, and that's of course a chance for startups, for all students here to close that gap, I think.
And we have an inflation of new roles in companies. Yeah, there is not only the data scientist, there is the data engineer, the data architect, the AI architect, the data curator, and so on and so on. Do I need a robot sitter for my company, or is there also a kind of ecosystem I need to prepare to be able to really work with this kind of technology?
I think the question I get basically every day, or like when someone passes our office, is, will I be replaced of a robot? That's like the beginning of every talk. And yeah, I also doesn't really think so, like also Sheila with AI. For example, when we go in humanoid robots, many companies have the idea to create a exact copy of what we do. And I don't really think that we will have a robot waking up in the morning, cooking breakfast, going into a car, buying groceries, going home, cooking it. But rather we will see a shift in the infrastructure, for example, having more plants in your garden that's going to be automatically watered and then somehow prepared on the way to your kitchen, for example. So I think we also need there a more holistic view on what will come. But also I saw a number today, I think like Amazon uses, I don't know, 500,000 robots in their warehouses, really different kind of robots. And I was like, wow, I don't know how many employees they have, but I sure will expect that we will have more robots than humans at what point. And we as a society have to decide what kind of role they will take, if they will have rights, how we should like interact with them. Because of course, when you interact with a robot badly, of course, we also had a discussion internally if we should say thank you to ChatGPT. And we had like one engineer saying, yes, of course, I will be the last one surviving and well when ChatGPT takes it over. But I think that really shows that the way we interact with each other with humans, we learn kind of rules. And when we lower that rules, we at one point, maybe the next generation will not really differentiate anymore what is the interaction with human and what is with the robot or an AI. So I think we should think about how we interact with this kind of technologies.
Very interesting point. So are you polite to ChatGPT or not? Short question. Who is saying please or thank you when you're using ChatGPT? Well educated.
Sometimes, most times.
Last week I had been at a conference and the Chief Data and Analytics Officer of Heineken stated data analytics is no longer a competitive advantage, it is a necessity. And maybe Yannic, as you said, what you already are doing with Deep Judge is changing the way how they are working. So if somebody has by now is not using this kind of technology, what would you advise? Also how to start? Obviously if somebody is, it's not easy to find a solution for their own situation. What to do?
Well, if we speak of law, the law is quite a data-driven industry. So there is maybe a lack of access, but if lawyers have the chance to access data and to make use of data, they will, and they're very happy to do so. They want to know, this judge, how often has this judge ruled on a case like this? How often did it pass? How often did it fail? You know, in a negotiation, how often has a clause been used like this? How often has it been negotiated down by this counterparty? Where do they go? What kind of trade-offs do they make? So they're super interested in that. So I don't think there are people who don't get that in the field. Yes.
And the same in medicine. Every practitioner already in data, or what's your advice to them?
Well, I think we will come to the point where you probably, in the near future, where it probably becomes negligent to treat patients without having, for example, a data-driven way of informing your decision, because you can't just make a decision based on gut feeling. You have to have evidence, ideally quantitative evidence, to decide what's best for the patient. So I think at some point we might be in a situation where where you might have a headline where say, patient was killed by not having enough data to make the right decision.
What would this mean for, if you're a practitioner in this field, it would change the relationship between you, the technology, the patient, quite substantial, right?
Yes, but I think it's probably a natural evolution of the field. I think, for example, if you think about the medical profession, every practitioner has to have a certain amount of training, for example, every year to maintain their license, correct? So you can imagine that in the future, perhaps you have to be able to show that you're using certain tools, data-driven, which you use to make your decision in order to keep your license. So I think there's a lot of regulation in the medical field, but you can also use that actually for your advantage and try to push in and bring in new technologies to improve decision making.
And maybe just an idea for a startup, then you need a kind of like this autopilot Flugsimulator checks that is simulating the moment the machine is not working and you have to react. Maybe this must be trained then as well.
I mean, I think the one thing which I would say to everybody who's doing startups in the medical field is to really think very carefully whether the problem they're trying to solve is a real problem and also a problem where somebody would be willing to pay money for. Because sometimes you think it's great to improve diagnostic accuracy by 2%. Sounds like a great thing and you should make a business out of that. But you also have to find somebody who's willing to pay for that. And your health insurance might not be willing to pay for that because they quite often have standardized rates, how they pay for something. And not always quality is factored into that. So if you, for example, do a diagnostic test, you typically get a certain amount of money for it. And it doesn't really matter whether you have 99% accuracy or 97%. And that's perhaps something which also needs to change in the system, to actually get more quality of care also into the whole equation.
And in many dimensions. So, but this is a nice handover to you, Sheila.
About, companies and adopting AI and so on, I just wanted to share a funny story that happened a few months ago. I was invited to my brother-in-law's house for a barbecue, and he is a CEO of a very big company in Germany, and he was telling me he's under pressure by the shareholders to do something with AI. What do you suggest I do? And I said, why are they pressuring you? Well, everybody's doing it and we're not. And so I'm like, well, you have to focus on what is, has the most return on your investment. What are your problems? What problems, do you think that intelligence can help solve? And he was like, I don't know. I just know that we need to do something. So I'm like, what kind of data do you have in your company? And maybe you can, get some insight and do some predictions and so on, which brings me to another story where I had a project, and early on in the project, I talked myself out of this job because they approached me and they said, it was a very big deal that we were making with the company I was working with and so on to help a manufacturing company implement predictive maintenance. And so I said, well, great, yeah, we want to be competitive. So the first thing I asked, is, like, what kind of data do you have? And do you have, data from the factory, from the ground, all the way up, from the floor shop all the way up to your CRMs? And how do you trace the data? And we have tons and tons of data. We got that project, 2 million euros later, it failed because they didn't have the right type of data. And they were like, you were asking about the right type of data on day one, but so these are the things that I see from the business world where there is a lot of pressure coming to do something in AI, not focusing on the right problems to solve that can be the most impactful, whether it's the example of Amazon. When I read that article about the number of robots being used in their warehouse to help reduce accidents, and that article, I saw so many comments, nobody caught that part to help reduce accidents. I'm like, so there are a lot of accidents happening at Amazon warehouse, and now robots are going to come in and save people. So, these are the kind of use cases that I think that we should...
It supports the point of the first keynote, that you need still advice, and you need good advice to sort it out and think first before you start implementing, right?
Right.
So we are here, obviously, at the TUM.ai AI Summit. So therefore, of course, one important question for all these students, for their careers, maybe for their dream to have run their own startup, what would you advise? Maybe I start with Yannic, if it's okay for you.
Join one first. So be an early employee. It's a much better job than being a founder. Promise. Pinky promise. If you like all the admin stuff, the hiring, the legal stuff, the problems, where is our new office? Why is there no coffee? It's like, you don't care if you're an early employee, just do your job, right? If you're a founder, that's all your problem. So join one early. You get to do a lot of really interesting stuff. You get to learn all about startup financing and so on without actually having to do it. And if you then still feel like you want to be a founder, which you won't, but if you still do, you're much more competent after having gone through that once on someone else's shoulders, let's say.
That's very great and very good advice. I saw everybody here agreeing. And who would you hire? Who would it be? Is it only a PhD in data science, or what are you looking for? What's a good position to be in to be the first one to be employed?
It's just competence. Just well, sorry, I don't. We don't care about degrees or anything. Not even seniority or anything like this. You just have to demonstrate that you're competent. You're willing to contribute, and you're very general. Like you understand a lot of different things, because you will have to, in a startup, you have to do a lot of different things. So yeah, you don't want someone who's just very super specialized, and yeah, you want people with a bit of an enthusiasm and with a broad knowledge and
then
sort of inventiveness, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we don't have the right kind of data. In a startup, you can't just let a $2 million project fail. You have to get creative, because that's the death of your company if you don't. So you will have to find a way to make that data or do something else, right? Yeah.
So a kind of unicorn. Every unicorn, if you don't want to create your own startup, you are employee number one and you are left. But for those who maybe during their studies have really in-depth knowledge for imaging in medicine, what would you recommend to them? Where to go, where to find a job, or what to do?
So first of all, I think I would echo quite a lot about sort of that competence is really the most important thing. I think if you want to go deep and narrow, which sometimes I agree in a startup is probably not the right thing, in research it's a great skill, because you can really drill down into something and you can really immerse yourself into something. And that can be incredibly interesting. So if you're more the type of person who thinks that they probably more would like to be narrow and go down very deep, then I think, for example, research, whether it's in academia or whether it's in industry, and is a great option. And I think in AI, actually, it's one of the very few fields where you can do great research in academia, in startups, as well as in bigger companies. So I think where you do that is perhaps you have different degrees of freedom, perhaps in different environments. You get also paid different amounts of money in different environments. But I think I think research in AI is still very exciting, because even though there's a lot which is being published every day, and whether it's published in the scientific literature, on Twitter or on YouTube, it's sometimes difficult to keep up with, but there are still many unsolved problems, and we still need a lot of people to tackle these unsolved problems. And I think it's very rewarding, whether you do it in academia or in order to earn money. Both is fine, I think.
So you have open positions currently?
Definitely. And if you want to do a PhD and dive deep into one area, feel free to contact me.
So you heard. Sheila?
I think that the best advice I could give is, going back to competency. Sometimes, when I was young, I would always hear from my parents, there's no such thing as a stupid question. There is such a thing as a stupid question. If you can Google it and find the answer through Google, then it is a stupid question. So having this, initiative to be a problem solver and solve a problem rather than, having the need to be handheld and be told what to do and how to do things. That's something that I see I work with a lot of youth, and what I see sometimes is that they are paralyzed by the fear of failure. I would appreciate someone and think they are very competent if they take a task, they just do it. Just do it. You fail. Failure is a good thing. You learn from failure, and you have to fail over and over and over again until you succeed, and not to be afraid of that. Nobody would laugh at you. Nobody will think any less of you. Go for it. Do it. If you fail, you'll learn your lesson. You'll do better next time, and and that is what would set someone apart from another. Going above and beyond to just do it, showing initiative. The technical aspect of things, I think, in my opinion, if I were hiring someone, is not as important as the person's competency in solving a problem. If they don't know how, they know how to go and find the solution. They can Google things, they can talk to people, they can initiate things on their own. And this is something that nowadays nobody has the time and the bandwidth to take someone by the hand and show them the ropes. So we have to be a little bit more self-sufficient. And these are some soft skills that unfortunately are not really taught in schools or universities or at home. The parents don't know if this is something that the kids should learn in schools or at university and whatnot. It's something that you learn by taking a job. And the job can teach you a lot of things. It could teach you where to find the coffee machine, how to problem solve, and things like that. And being in the world outside of the bubble of the academic world and so on, and feeling the world, the real world, and navigating around it. So
it's believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And be a little bit proactive, and I would say that's then the skill set that
and there's no such thing as failure. It's all a learning experience, and yeah, that's my message.
Elisa, from your experience.
Yeah, I would agree and disagree with you. So at once, we just hired a founders associate, actually here from TUM. He moved to Berlin for us. And he had actually the same experience. He founded a startup, and then he saw, okay, I actually want to learn first how to build a startup, so he joined us. But on the other side, I'm often asked, why are you a good robotics founder? Like maybe because the way I look, maybe because I was in philosophy. But actually my answer is there's no reason. Like I was always trying to go to London and study there, go to Cambridge, going to BCG, going to Goldman Sachs, and just collecting everything I need to be a good startup founder from the outside. And then I met my CTO, and he actually didn't go to school when he was like 15, founded his first startup, and he was saying, Elisa, when you're believing in yourself, just do it. I'm like, I have no idea, I'm scared, I don't know, everyone is saying I shouldn't do that, why should I do that? And he's like, just do it. And it was like the most easiest thing someone said to me, but the reason why I sit here today. And I would be glad if this kind of failing culture would be more in our society. And even in my studies, it was like, okay, why are you doing that? It's like outside of what normal people are doing. Still, we, for example, are in deep tech, so we have people who are really narrow, like the best person you can find for this specific topic, or there's 10 in the world who could do that. And of course, as a startup, you need this really, really good people in order to achieve the same thing with 10 people as with 1,000 people, to be like in good competition there. And then as a CEO, what I learned and actually didn't really think as a logical person, I have to do decisions with not a lot of data points. For example, who to hire, which VC to take, what coffee to buy. I have no clue. Like most time, you just have to do it. And I think that should be more talked when it comes to founding a startup. You have to be okay with not being sure about what you're doing most of the time. But still, for example, I just hired as an assistant for me, and we had like a lot of applications for all over the world. In the end, I hired a 20-year-old woman that has a quite interesting past and a lot of work experience at legal offices, actually. And I was like, wow, that person knows how to work. She had a great work ethic, and that was the sole reason I hired her. She had never worked in a startup, never worked as an assistant, and every day I see that's the right decision. And for the founders associate, I think what really comes to play with him, he's highly empathetic. Like in a startup, you have 1,000 things to do, and you have to dance on every party a little bit. So when you have this skill, you're really good in startups. When you want to dive deep, maybe in research, but just try out whatever you want. I think that's the basic message.
So hard to summarize. I would summarize it in that way. We have a kind of menu. If you are very specialized and interesting in one point, of course research. What else? There you have the chance. You can choose university, also corporations. In other way around, you are more this unicorn, you have a lot of talents and you are very empathic and love to discuss and see everywhere I can help here and there. Maybe then it's time for a startup, maybe not found your own, but first learn and be the first or second employee. So I think this leaves everything open. Just follow your instinct and be honest to yourself. And this also, the time is moving, brings me to the famous last words. And I would ask you, as short as possible, to answer, why will the future be bright?
Maybe because we will have robots.
Agreed.
Agreed, yeah. So that's it.
No, I think people will continue building stuff, even in the face of all the whatever naysayers and regulations and all this kind of things. People will build stuff, and life will get better, like it always has with technology. And yeah, so there's not really a question why. It's just that's what's happening.
I was recently at an event where there was a youth delegation, and the message there was, you know, the youth are the drivers of tomorrow, and you shouldn't just request to have a seat at the table. You should be in the driving seat, and this is why the future will be bright if you engage yourself and not just invite yourself, you know, to have a seat there, but also be driving the discussions, asking the right questions, and questioning the status quo. Look at all these smiley faces that have stayed with us here tonight to listen to our discussions and so on. This gives us some hope and perspective that with this kind of attitude and the willingness to do good and help one another and help take the technology towards the right direction, yeah, I'm optimistic that it will look bright.
Nice.
I would share that. I also think there are two reasons why I think the future is very bright. AI is not yet able to predict the future, so I think it's really all up to you to shape the future. And I think we shouldn't really follow all this sort of doomsday predictions. I think there's yet another very pragmatic reason why the future is bright. I saw a lot of people there in the back bringing food there to the side of the table, which I guess as soon as we're done with this panel, some of you might be able to have. So I think that makes me very optimistic for the rest of the evening.
Having said this, I assume we skip the Q&A and I just finish with the future will be bright and it's yours, so go and make it happen. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you very, very much. And as already said, since we are running out of time, I would suggest, I will wrap up this session and then feel free to approach all the panelists, the experts here, right after this session. So thank you very much. And as already heard, we have both sides. We have benefits of AIs. We should also be skeptical. So I would say let's do a short audience check. So who's more on the side of being optimistic about AI? Raise your hands. Who's more skeptical about AI, what it can do, what it might do to us? Okay, we had one. Okay, yeah. Good to know, because also afterwards, it's also about challenging the status quo. So feel free to look for people with a different perspective and talk with them. So from our perspective, the most fruitful discussions, they happen not when you are listening, rather when you talk to each other, like in the networking part right afterwards. So also when you can elaborate on that, what do you right now, what you just heard, when you can talk to your peers, hey, what do you think, what Yannic said, or what Professor Rückert said, do you agree? So we encourage you to use this networking part to talk about everything what you just heard. I already spotted many experts from, like, we saw VCs, we saw research experts, we saw data scientists. So we have a very diverse set of people tonight, which is the basis, the foundation for such discussions. So in the networking part, we will have it on 2 areas, right here and at the top. We will have food, we will have drinks. If you already noticed it, everyone has a badge, and the badges, they have different colors, and the colors, like each color has a different meaning. So also, use this as a game and try to figure out what the colors mean. We will have a DJ, we will have background music, we will have a photo wall where you can take pictures with your peers, with the people you met today. And for all the people who cannot get enough from AI, we will have 2 showcases. One is from TNG about deepfakes, and one is from Fortis about symbolic AI for robots. I think they are right there. I think one you can already spot from here. Tomorrow we will start at 10:30. It will be a full day packed with entrepreneurship, startups, workshop, company booths. So feel free to check it out. And also at the very end, we want to mention that we from TUM.ai, we want to shape AI together with all of you, and we need all of you. So if you have questions about how to partner with us, how you can support us, feel free to reach out to Christoph, to Alexandra from the partners and sponsors like team leads, or if you spot any other different, like any other TUM.ai member, we have here also the presidents with us from TUM.ai, reach out to them. And if you have no time today, also we will have a TUM.ai booth tomorrow. So, and before we close this evening, I want to say thank you especially to all the speakers from today. Please give them a huge round of applause. I also want to say thank you to all the people watching in the live stream. We have the cameras here, to all the sponsors and partners who made this possible, and to all the helpers from the TUM.ai members who volunteered, especially the marketing department, the partners and sponsors department, and of course also the Megathon department who supported like massively for this very event. Please give them a round of applause. So with that being said, look around. The next co-founder might be right next to you, or a person having a different perspective on AI. The official part is over. I wish you a nice remaining evening. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
So viel unterwegs, einfach nicht die Zeit. Immer heiß und schön, du nicht zu zweit.